Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. New Life Live is dedicated to transforming lives one at a time, thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
Well, welcome to New Life Live. This is Larry Sonnenburg sitting in for Steve today, and I'm with Dr. Alice Benton here in studio.
Hello.
And Becky Brown in another studio.
They let me in.
Yeah, they did.
I've been gone and I've missed it so much. I'm so glad to be back.
Well, before we get going, I want to ask our audience, say a prayer for Steve. He's got some flu-like symptoms. He's had a COVID test waiting for the results. His son had flu that was not COVID. But we just want him to regain his strength and health and get back on top regardless. Mm-hmm. So say a prayer for Steve. I feel like I should say top of the morning to you.
And the rest of the day to you.
There you go. We got a little Irish lady here, Alice.
I'm the representative.
Yeah, tell us, St. Patrick's Day, tell us about your family, Irish history, St. Patrick's Day stuff. What do you got?
Well, we are the McNeils from County Cork, and there are still some family members on a farm back in Cork. Yep.
That's so cool.
Yep. Some of the family's been able to get over there to meet them and connect with them. We take it very seriously. We sneak into the infamous St. Patty's Day parade in the Twin Cities in Minnesota every year. The McNeils find a spot and we march. We show our Irish pride. And I was just checking in with my siblings this morning. I think we all have corned beef bubbling away in the pot.
Oh,
now that's pretty American, but we love that. We love that meal. So we do take the day seriously. Actually, I was thinking about St. Patrick. Maybe a lot of you know his story. He's sort of like Joseph in a lot of ways. And it made me think about you, our audience, that he went through such trials and travails, and the enemy should have won. That it should have beat him down and kept him down, but it didn't. He came back, and God used him in magnificent ways in Ireland. And I think that about you folks. You call in and you tell us these just stories of horror that you have lived through, and yet you maintain your faith and you still see God.
That's good.
I don't know that I could if I had been as damaged, if I'd gone through as much as you all have. We're proud of you, our listeners. We love you so much.
I love that he had a heart for those people to know Jesus.
Yes.
It was a calling on him. It was pretty amazing that they wouldn't have known about Jesus had he not gone back for more.
The shamrocks become the symbol of St. Patrick's Day. And Lisa sent a note over just reminding some things about St. Patrick's Day. And it said it's a 3-leaf plant to explain the Holy Trinity to the pagan Irish. And I love that. Something that's natural and obvious. And I guess blue was the original color that was celebrated way back when, but it's turned to green. And that's where we are today. But I can't help but think of St. Patrick's Day in Irish without thinking of our friend Dave Stoop. Dave was Irish to the core. He had an Irish passport. He was an Irish citizen and a U.S. citizen both. And he loved it. I tell the story when we talked about going to Ireland. He came into my office, and it's almost like he pointed his finger in my chest and said, "I'm going on that trip with you." He was determined that he was going, and he did. And he brought his son Mike, and I think
Terry,
and
his wife
Terry,
and their kids. I think Mike and
So,
we had the pleasure of having dinner with them in an Irish pub, and it just he loved his dual citizenship, and of course we loved him and we miss him.
We celebrated his life on Monday on radio. If you haven't heard that, go online and listen to it. I think it was a pretty special time. And you can hear Becky's husband lead off that show with us. And also we're going to do the second half of that, air that on Friday. We recorded a second program right after the first. Henry Cloud was on it. John Townsend was on the second hour. And it was Milan Yurkovich, Steve, and myself. So go to newlife.com if you can't watch or listen to it live, or if you want to see it on YouTube, you can go to YouTube and watch it. A lot of good stuff. And we'll be back in just a minute and take some calls and get going on this program. Thanks.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn from New Life Live, and Chris Williams and I are doing the Emotional Freedom Workshop March the 27th. I don't know of anybody that wouldn't benefit from emotional freedom. We're all bound or stuck or struggling in some area. What are we going to do there, Chris?
Just really help people get clarity around the places where they're stuck in their life. They sort of circle the same mountain of disappointment over and over and over again. You're going to be able to see that mountain clearly and get to a new place of what we call emotional freedom, which is simply I can feel in the world, build a relationship to it, and know what to do with my experiences.
The New Life Emotional Freedom Workshop will be held online Saturday, March 27th. Steve Arterburn and Chris Williams will present information on trauma, depression, codependency, and more. And small group leaders will help you process the information you learn. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or register online at newlife.com. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Okay, we're back. And Dr. Alice Benton, Becky Brown, and myself, Larry Sonnenburg, we're going to go right to the phones. We're going to talk with Lydia. Lydia's in Tahunga, California, listens on KKLA. Hi, Lydia. How can we help you?
Hi. First of all, I want to thank you for what you guys do. I've been a loyal listener for years, and I've learned so much. However, I lost my daughter 5 years ago, and since she died, I feel stuck. I can't move forward, and I'm just in a dark place, and I need help.
I'm so sorry, Lydia. And tell us about your daughter. What was so special in your relationship?
Well, we didn't have a relationship only because my daughter was severely disabled. She had various disabilities, and which kept us from having a relationship. She was in a home because of the severity of her disabilities. But what I did during that time, I did have 5 more daughters, but I really didn't share my grief, for her. I was grieving, and I really kind of kept it to myself. So my family really didn't know what I was experiencing. So when she passed away, I just felt like I could finally release all of that. And I have sought counseling in the past for other things, but this particular counselor hadn't lost a loved one, so I really didn't feel like we really connected in that area.
Lydia, was her death something that was expected, or was it sudden?
She died when she was 40, and she'd been in hospice. There had been some complications, so it was. But, to be honest with you and candid, I had been waiting for that for the longest time, only because I saw her suffering.
Right.
And I don't know if it was for her or for me or for both of us. But, it's like you don't really want your children to die before you. Even though it was so complex, but I'm sure you can imagine. So it wasn't.
Lydia, would you tell us about the weight of any guilt or regret that you hold in your struggle to love and care for your daughter?
Definitely. As I mentioned, there was no relationship. She really didn't know me. She had mine of a 3-month-old. So, going to visit her was very painful. I was talking to Rhonda. I don't know if she's related to Larry, but she's so wonderful. Yesterday she heard me out. Going to visit my daughter was worse than going to a grave because, when you go to a graveyard, they're resting, but it was extremely painful. It's like I really didn't want to stay there, but I felt an obligation because she was my daughter. So,
right.
There was just so many emotions. But, yeah, there's guilt and, I felt cheated and, many more.
Lydia, the hard part is that the grieving process probably began at the point at which she had to be placed in care. That
Definitely.
That part of a parent with a child that has struggles, that deep woundedness is something that you carry with you. But then, like you just described, you having to visit, because you wanted to, but the confusion that goes along with it. So this is like a 40-year grieving process. And then when she finally passes away, what you normally would do would be feeling some relief in her own situation, but you're still stuck in that process. And I wonder, have you said that you had gone to a counselor, but it was kind of hard because they had not lost a loved one. They haven't. And there are other groups that I think might be helpful, even though I know that this was a special circumstance. Losing a child is a very traumatic experience, but on top of what you already had as a trauma experience for 40 years, it's pretty significant.
Yes. Yeah. In addition to that, I was only 16. So by the time I was 20, I had these problems that a 60-year-old could probably handle, and not even.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been difficult to move forward.
Lydia, you've probably developed some very negative beliefs about yourself and some of the people around you because of how hard this has been, and because it's felt like your daughter doesn't even know you. So I want you to try to fill in a couple blanks for me. So this is the negative self-accusation that you have, probably as a mom. I am what? Fill in that blank with one of those ugly words you think in your head about yourself.
I'm lost.
And God, and God is what? Because of all this.
Well, that's another thing. I didn't have my father in my life. So this sort of an association, you see God as your dad. So he abandoned me.
And the father of your daughter is what?
Well, he committed suicide shortly after that. I don't know why he did. We were no longer together. So I felt as a single parent raising this child, on top of that, he does that, so, he was just not in the picture.
He abandoned you too, didn't he? He abandoned you and he abandoned
Yes.
your daughter, and you both needed him.
Exactly. Yes.
Why is this? Why are you reaching out for help now?
Because this can't go on any longer. I need to move on. I know this is not normal. So, I mean, I can sleep all day. And that would be normal for me. And I can't be doing this. I am married to a wonderful man now. And he just deserves what I can give. And I know I have a lot to offer. It's just that I just feel stuck. I can't really, I don't, my grandchildren are really not that much of a part of me because of this situation as well.
I wonder, go ahead, Alice.
I think you know what you need to do, Lydia. It's, of course, very difficult to do, but I think you know what you need to do. What is your question for us?
How do I get unstuck? How do I accept what's happened and just, deal with it?
So great question, Lydia. Great question. The challenge is that it's a process. So getting unstuck and how to deal with it and how to move forward are these little steps that will begin the minute that you start in that direction. Sometimes we come up with lots of excuses of why we can't seek help. It could be that, like you said, the counselor that doesn't have a loss of a child of their own, so then you don't feel like you can connect with them. I would suggest that you begin, and we can connect you with somebody that can begin this process. You probably have depression, which is that whole sleeping all day kind of thing, which is part of that grieving process. It can happen that way. You've lost your joy. You sound really flat in your affect as well, which also is an exhibition of depression. But what I want to encourage you, Lydia, that it will take some time because this was such a deep wound. And then just in some of the other things that you've said, like your first husband or the father of the baby committing suicide, there's all kinds of just pain that's all wrapped up inside of you. You need a place for it to come out. and in a place that is safe. And I think group work will be part of that. I would encourage you to participate in our Emotional Freedom Workshop next week. It would be a great beginning point, but it's also going to give you a group of people that you can share with that are going to carry this. You're going to be amazed, Lydia, as you go through these processes, how that weight is going to be lifted. We can't make sense of all the things that happen in our life this side of heaven. We just can't. And I think sometimes in our grief, we get confused in those places, and we get stuck wanting to know why. Why did this happen? What am I supposed to do now? And it just gets to be a layering upon layering of that grief. But I hope that helps. That's the next step. Is you need to have a counselor. You need to have, I would even maybe see a family doctor, psychiatrist, to begin to assess how deep is this depression and what you need to do for support.
Any last words, Alice?
Lydia, you'll have to persevere through the imperfections of the caregivers and the groups, because no one will be able to fully 100% relate and understand. But you'll have to push past that, trusting that God will use even the imperfections of the providers that you seek out to bring salve to your wounds. And you're exactly the person I was talking about, Lydia, when I described our listeners that perseveres through struggles. And I honor the mother that you were to your daughter and that you are to your other girls. You never gave up trying to love, as difficult as it was.
Lydia, thank you for calling. I want to send you a couple things. I want to send you a grief CD that Dr. Dave, no, not Dr. Dave, it was Dr.
Jill and Henry.
Yeah, Henry Cloud and Jill did on grief, and it's very helpful. And I thought maybe the Emotional Freedom Workbook as well.
That'd be great.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Thank you for calling. And Rhonda is my wife, and she's okay.
She's more than okay. She's amazing.
She is amazing. Okay, let's talk to Giovanni. He is calling from, Manteca up in Sacramento area. Listens on KFIA. Hello, Giovanni.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. What can we help you with? What's your call about?
So I'm calling, my wife and I separated, actually a month ago. And I wanted maybe two questions. One is, I guess, how to actually to move on and not continue to work, or whether to work on the relationship or not. So I get a little background. We split up for a week. We took a break last year, and we took a break because I had kind of an anger problem. I had a very short fuse. And then I got introduced to go to a Christian church, and I started going, and I actually seeked out counseling from that church. And from then on, my short temper kind of, went down a little bit. I started to take actually more control of my anger and my attitude. There were still times where, I just kind of said some stuff. It wasn't nothing to me, it wasn't extreme, but to her, it just kind of gave her a flashback of how it was prior. And after the break, we both started going to church. We were both doing really good, and we were both actually going to a marriage counselor. And on her last session with this specific marriage counselor, she told her that every time that she decides to kind of hold back and not speak about her feelings, that she kind of loses herself. And she took that literally, and she said after that we should probably take a break again, but this time for a lot longer. And I tried to, prevent that from happening, so I seeked out the counselor I went to, and she did marriage counseling as well, so we went with her once. And then my wife was like, no, I kind of just want to take a break. I don't want to work on it anymore. And then, she left a month ago. So my question is, how could I work on the relationship without necessarily bothering her every day or every week, and still give her her space? And I guess that's primarily it.
How long were you married, Giovanni?
2.5 years. This year would have been 3.
And then how long were you together before that?
About 1.5 years.
Okay.
Do you have any children?
No.
And is your wife asking you not to have contact or to limit your contact with her?
So when she left, she wasn't specific, I did contact her once 2 weeks ago, and I did ask her, like, I was like, hey, I know I messed up, and I kind of put the world priority, trying to make sure focus on my job or whatever. And then at the end of the conversation, she just pretty much said, I just want my space. And, but she wasn't very specific to don't contact me or, we can talk or anything like that. And when she does contact me, it's normally to what we're going to do, like financially or whatever.
Were you physically and verbally abusive towards her in the past?
No.
Neither one?
No.
But
No.
you
I
said,
mean, like when
but
I
you
got-
said, Giovanni, that she felt that way towards you. That she said that some of the stuff that you were saying was a little bit too much for her.
The anger.
So for example, one of the stuff I would say is, like, because I work in construction and I have to commute, there would be times where I'd come home and she'd be off. She'd be like, oh, let's take a nap. And I would say, okay. And then normally I would have stuff to do when I get home.
Giovanni, hold
And I would
that
take a nap
thought.
with her, and then-
Hold that thought. We'll come back right after the break to you.
After I found the pornography on the internet, I said you either get help or I have to leave this household.
Every day, thousands of women discover their husband is struggling with sexual integrity. And since shelter-in-place orders have gone into effect, traffic to porn sites has skyrocketed. New Life's Every Man's Battle workshop can help.
I believed that I could do it on my own. I just believed if I tried hard enough and pulled myself up hard enough by my bootstraps, I could do it. It was a battle that I'd had all my life. I had to get help.
The Every Man's Battle workshop can be a trip to the sexual addiction emergency room. During this time of social distancing, the Every Man's Battle workshop will be held online Saturday, April 10th. Find sexual integrity, accountability, and connection. Register now to reserve a place at the Every Man's Battle online workshop. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
The single most helpful thing was to realize that I wasn't the weirdest guy on the planet.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-NEWLIFE.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for 30 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addictions, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
You guys are awesome. You are a blessing to America.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first step toward genuine spiritual and emotional healing, please call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door to a better tomorrow right now. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433.
We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Okay, we're back. We're talking to Giovanni, and we had to interrupt him for the break. Giovanni, continue with what you were saying.
So when I'd go home and take a nap, I would normally put like a 15-20 minute alarm, and then sometimes I would just kind of snooze the alarm or turn it off and continue to sleep. And I would kind of just wake up at, super late where I couldn't either go to the gym or get whatever I needed to get done. And I'd be like, dang it, I didn't go to the gym or I didn't get anything done because I took a nap with you. And for the longest time, she'd be like, you always blame me. And I'm like, I didn't understand what she meant by that until one day we sat down, we literally talked about it, and she gave me that example. And I'm like, I'm not blaming you. I literally took a nap with you. I mean, it was my decision to take the nap, but she took it as I'm blaming her and it's her fault because I didn't get anything done. And then whenever I try to explain myself at a later notice, she always says, see, you always try and change my mind. Like, you always say, but that's not what I meant, or I meant this way. And I'm like, you don't bring it up to my attention that very time. Like, I say stuff very bluntly, and sometimes she kind of takes it as I'm referring to her when it's not towards her. So that's kind of what, I guess, some of the stuff where she meant, like, maybe I'm attacking her.
Giovanni,
and then when I would get upset, I would get...
Giovanni, you do minimize what your role is. You try to explain it and you try to justify it. And you do have reasons for what you said and what you did. But you minimize her experience of you. And it sounds like, I don't think you mean to do this, but it sounds like you're excusing yourself. So she feels unheard and unvalidated by you. It's like you don't see her. You're just justifying and explaining yourself. That's not your intention, but that's how it comes across.
Okay.
How do you react to that? Can you see some truth there?
Yeah.
What truth can you see?
That I'm just trying to defend myself, and like you said, don't really see it in her perspective or how she feels about it.
And Giovanni, who hurt her before you?
Her mom and dad.
How badly did they hurt her?
And well, I know she went through like some abuse when she was young, and then her mom, when she needed her mom to be there, her mom wasn't there, and then her dad, you know, because they were separated, her dad pretty much only went to go see her and pick her up because, you know, it was through a court and he had to go pick her up every weekend. And then once she turned 18, he, you know, it was up to her to go see him or whatever.
So something very unfair is taking place between you and your wife. You're receiving some of the reaction from what her parents did. So she probably sees and experiences you a little worse than an objective observer would. She might think and feel that you're harsher on her than perhaps I would think if I saw your interaction take place. But her heart has been so hurt by the people that were supposed to protect her and love her. And it feels hurt again when you justify what you're doing to her.
And it can, and it can be frustrating too, Giovanni, because your intentions are good.
Yep.
You're trying to fix it, but the way to fix it is to just hear her. That that takes a process and that takes a plan. I was telling Alice and Larry at the break that I was a little frustrated with the counselor's suggestion that you separate, because we believe that healing occurs in relationship. You know, there's no way for you guys to cross that bridge if you are just separated all the time. Her heart is hurt. Go ahead.
Actually, the counselor didn't suggest to separate. She said that the Christian counselor told us that it's best to, you know, work on it together, continue to go to counseling, because she said the same thing.
Good.
You know, you guys are having this rough patch because of past trauma. But then out of nowhere, my wife just kind of said, you know, I don't want to try anymore after, you know, I was trying to make another appointment with the counselor. And then my wife was the one that told the counselor, well, I just need space away, like not in the same house. And that's when she was like, well, I would suggest that over divorce any day, you know, because she's obviously, my pastor's Christian. She's like, I don't believe in divorce. But you know, she didn't suggest separating right out. She said to work on it in the house as much as we can.
So you do have a tough decision to make here. Your wife is asking for space, but you probably know and sense that God doesn't want you to give too much space while still attempting to respect her request of you. But if the therapist was leaning heavily on this is happening because of past trauma, we also need to bring in, and I'm sure the therapist did, it's past trauma, but it's also current imperfections and character defects, things that you, Giovanni, can keep working on, and you can bring them in confession to your wife. So I think one of the strongest moves you could make is to allow yourself to be the bad guy and be worse than you truly are. And by that I mean going back to your wife, asking if she'd have a conversation with you, and confessing to her, it's been pointed out to me that I justify and I minimize, and it makes our situation worse, and it also re-wounds what you've already been through with your mom and dad. And I want to hear from you what that's been like all this time, to go through this dance. It's not been helpful, and I think I've hurt you even more. Would you tell me about it?
Giovanni, I also think it wouldn't hurt if she would do it, is to pull this program up online. And let her hear it. Say you talk to some people and they help you see some things about yourself. And I'm sorry for what I have been doing. And we have a counselor here that tells us, get a PhD in your wife and her hurts. And take it to heart. God gave you her to care for her and to look out after her. And you can do that best by not doing the justification like she said. What book should we send Giovanni? How We Love is
and
coming
the book
your way.
and the workbook too.
Okay.
And I would encourage Giovanni, you keep going to the counseling even if your wife isn't going.
Definitely.
Just keep doing the work.
You bet.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit its addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for 30 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
I'm an addict, and I'm trying to get God in my life again.
You seem to be able to get to the crux of a problem quickly.
Our Christ-centered treatment programs can help you break free to embrace all that God has for you and your family.
I just want to thank you guys for bringing me to a relationship with Jesus.
There really is help for marital problems, depression, addictions, panic attacks, and feelings of hopelessness.
I came back with so many tools to help me prepare myself to fight this struggle and this battle that I have every day.
You can start living again today, living the life God intended for you. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
They did care, and they did follow up very lovingly, and it made all the difference in my life.
Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Someone who cares is waiting at the other end of the phone. God can open the door to a better tomorrow right now. Just call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-639-5433.
We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Okay, welcome back. One last thing about Giovanni. You said you didn't say enough that you were proud of him.
I hope you're still listening, Giovanni, because I want to praise you. It just warms my heart when a young man is pursuing God and pursuing what's right, even though that's more difficult. So I applaud the character work you've already done. And you are inspiring other listeners and giving hope to other wives that here there are men like you.
Okay, let's talk to Hattie in Monrovia, California. Listens on KKLA. Hattie, how can we help you today?
Yes, hi, my name is Nurse Hattie, and I am a professional, but I just don't know how to work with this situation. Both of my daughters, per doing research on the internet, have been diagnosed with my own personal diagnosis, of course, misophonia. Have you heard of this before?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, but we can Google it unless you tell us what it is.
Okay, what it is, it's a disorder which certain sounds trigger emotional or physical responses that some might perceive unreasonable at any given circumstance. Those who have misophonia might describe it as when a sound drives you crazy. The reaction can range from anger and annoyance to panic, and they need to flee the area or situation.
What kind of sounds?
Well, okay, for instance, we are not able to have dinner together because chewing is very disturbing. If someone is coughing or swallowing or breathing or tapping or sniffling, I mean...
How long has this been going on? How long has this been going on, Nurse Hattie?
Okay, so my 16-and-a-half-year-old daughter, it's been going on for 3 years, and my 15-and-a-half-year-old daughter has been going on for 2 years. So both of the girls have a problem with this.
All right. Do they have any anxiety at all about anything else?
Well, I know that when my older daughter, with COVID and stuff, when they were in school, my older daughter experienced a situation where she would say, "Oh, I look at my homework, I get really stressed out, I just can't do it, and I freeze and I won't do anything at all." Now, she has a photographic memory and is very, very bright, but she didn't do well last year because of the fact that she didn't do her homework.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think I don't know if it's compulsive or.
It can be a number. It
Yeah.
can be a number of things, but what have you tried?
Okay, so one of my friends said, well, it could be dehydration. So we went ahead and hydrated. We did the 6 to 8 glasses of water a day for hydration. Then I thought, well, maybe I also work for an ENT doctor. And I said, well, maybe it's the membrane that's too thin and the sounds are amplified. Maybe that. Well, that, we checked it out. There's really nothing going on with that. I think it's a psychological thing. And I don't know if it's caused because they're on their phones and computers doing schoolwork, or I'm not really.
Hattie, tell us about conflict in the family.
Okay, conflict in the family. So, we don't really fight that much. I mean, they're kids and we do have them on the straight and narrow path. I mean, we expect certain things for them. Oh, you know what? Okay, so they were both adopted when they were first born at different times. They both shared the same biological mom and biological dad, but they're 16 months apart. So they have known that they've been adopted from day one. I mean, we have not hidden that from them. We've tried to make it a very comfortable situation. So maybe there's conflict with that.
Let me ask you this. First of all, I just want to know if you've done any counseling or any kind of process as far as the anxiety or even this misophonia that you've talked about. Have you had any helpers in the process?
No, we haven't. I do have a friend that's a doctor, and she said that it was conflict of interest, so she wouldn't help the family. So, yeah.
Well, we can try to connect you with somebody that can work with the girls. But the other thing is, whenever I love, Alice, the question of, if there's conflict in the family, and the immediate response is we don't really fight. Well, just because you're not fighting doesn't mean that there isn't conflict. We all work conflict in different ways, and sometimes people are yelling and screaming, but there are other times that it's this, stony silence or just disconnection. There's a conflict, but they don't even know how to process it. So I think it would be very helpful to have a family session. I think everybody get together. The issue of the noise thing, I think, is secondary to the main thing, which is how do we connect? And I just think, that's my perspective. But Alice, what do you think?
Hattie, you probably know this, that when children are adopted, especially if there was any period of trauma that they may have gone through before coming to you, the possibility of reactive attachment disorder could be in play here. And children with this disorder and who have been really traumatized early on, even possibly in the womb, if there was substance use, it can lead to emotional and physical sensitivities that are difficult to understand, but they can be a result of the trauma. Hearing that you all don't even have dinner together anymore sounds very significant. And it makes me wonder why you haven't seen a professional. You've done other things to try to help. You certainly have tried to work the problem. Why have you not had an official appointment with a professional about it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Abby, my 2 daughters were both adopted right out of the womb. We were there when they were born. So if there's any trauma maybe in the womb while the mother was pregnant, if there was trauma there. But other than that, we got them right after they were born. So the day after, in the hospital.
I'm going to take a guess. I'm interrupting. I wonder if being a professional and having all the skills and training that you have, of course, you have so much that you can apply to this situation, and you want to do everything you can first to try to help fix this. So it might be hard to go to another professional because you are a nurse. And Hattie, I feel the same way. I'm a doctor of psychology. I should be able to do all this on my own. And yet still my family faces problems, and still I mess up, and I don't always know how to handle it. So I want to suggest to you, I want you to prayerfully consider if that title of nurse that you told us right at the start, I am Nurse Hattie, if that might get in the way sometimes of reaching out for the help that you need from another professional.
She dropped, or no, I'll tell you what, there she is.
Anything you have to give me.
We'll try to connect you. I know we have counselors in Monrovia, and I think that would be the next step for you guys. I do. And to be open.
I would love that.
Okay, because you know what? I love that you love that, Hattie. I know when you are Googling what's wrong with my girls, you are looking for an answer. And I'm so glad that you did adopt them. I'm glad that you were there from day one. It's wonderful. I don't want you to stop at this important part of their lives right now. I want you to have the support. And we all need support, just like you said, Alice. We all are trying to figure this thing out.
What book can we send Hattie that might send her in a direction to help her?
Healing is a choice. Maybe. I mean, that's what I'm thinking.
All right. What's coming your way, Hattie? Thank you. Thank you. Before we go to break, excuse me, I want to just share that we have an Emotional Freedom Workshop coming up next week, a week from Saturday. Steve Arterburn and Chris Williams will be doing that workshop one day. Can't speak highly enough about it, so please consider that.
Can I say one thing about that?
Please.
During this time of pandemic, our workshops are the most available than we have ever had. We always, hear people, I'd love to go sometime. Here's your opportunity. This is going to be a great day. If you need scholarship money, we can help you with that. But even if you don't, it's the least amount that you'll ever have to pay, and we want you to take advantage of it. Don't wait.
No hurdles, no planes to get on, no cars to drive, no hotels to stay at. We had
excuses.
We had a couple at our marriage workshop from Japan.
Yes.
That's how low the bar is in terms of hurdles. I also just want to ask you for your support. We appreciate your giving to New Life. We can't do what we do without you stepping in and helping us. It opens up the doors to healing in so many ways. And Club New Life is a great way to go. We have a great thank you gift. There's several books. There's a lot of benefits. And we need your help right now because there are some Club New Life members of no fault of their own that aren't able to continue right now because of technology, and we just need some folks to step in and fill in and help us. We'll be back right after this.
After I found the pornography on the internet, I said you either get help or I had to leave this household.
Every day, thousands of women discover their husband is struggling with sexual integrity. And since shelter-in-place orders have gone into effect, traffic to porn sites has skyrocketed. New Life's Every Man's Battle Workshop can help.
I believed that I could do it on my own. I just believed if I tried hard enough and pulled myself up hard enough by my bootstraps, I could do it. It was a battle that I'd had all my life. I had to get help.
The Every Man's Battle Workshop can be a trip to the sexual addiction emergency room. During this time of social distancing, the Every Man's Battle Workshop will be held online Saturday, April 10th. Find sexual integrity, accountability, and connection. Register now to reserve a place at the Every Man's Battle online workshop. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
The single most helpful thing was to realize that I wasn't the weirdest guy on the planet.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-NEWLIFE.
I was really living a very anxiety-filled life. I turned on New Life, and the topic that day was about anxiety. And just by listening, I got relief.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of 7 books, including Growth Has No Boundaries by Drs. John Townsend and Henry Cloud, Take Your Life Back by Steve Arterburn and Dr. Dave Stoop, and the Emotional Freedom Workbook. Plus, there are ongoing benefits like access to the Club New Life video library, the monthly Club New Life CD or download, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, and discounts on workshops. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Okay, we're back. Before we go to our final caller here today, I just want to ask you folks to pray for us. We are trying to determine when and how to go back to live workshops. And we're looking at possibly restore, but there's just details to work out, and things are always changing, and COVID makes people crazy, including us. So we're looking for God's wisdom to say, this is when we're going to do it. Jump and see how it happens. So thanks for your prayers. Okay, let's go and talk to Philip. Philip is calling from Michigan because he watches on YouTube. Philip, how can we help you?
Hi. Before I go any further and ask my question, let me express my condolences to the ministry over the passing of Dr. David Stoop.
Thank you.
But my question for all of you today is, I've been in a toxic relationship with my mother for the last 35 years now. How do I sever those ties without dishonoring her as my mother?
Philip, tell us a little bit about the toxicity. What's been happening?
Since I've been in my early to mid-teens, she has sent me off trying to encourage me with an aspiration, and then she'll sabotage what I'm trying to do with it. For instance, the example I gave your call receiver was, I set out on a quest to overcome cerebral palsy by learning the organ and earning a degree in music, and I wanted to get a degree in music and my first church job as an organist. Cool. By the time I graduated from high school, and she sabotaged that.
How did she sabotage it?
I'll say, Mom, I'm going to practice 6 to 8 hours a day in the summers. And she'll say, I'm sorry, you can't do that because.
Philip, are you living with your mom still?
No, I'll be 50 years old next year. I'm on my
okay.
own.
Okay, great. Okay, so then what kind of interaction do you have with her now?
Only phone calls right now.
Okay.
So what would
most text messaging on Facebook Messenger, but that's it.
What would severing ties look like to you? Total non-communication, or what are you thinking?
Say that again, Larry.
You mentioned that you wanted to break ties in some sense without dishonoring her. What does that look like? Does that mean you won't communicate at all?
That, to me, that looks like Facebook Messenger as far as communication. Phone calls no more than 10 minutes each time. Other than that, Mother's Day cards, birthday cards, Christmas cards, and stuff like that.
You know, well, and I just want to say, sometimes people have to do that. What I would say to you, if this is a choice of yours, Philip, you have to guard against the bitterness that you might have as a result of that. So there are really strong boundaries that people have to make with toxic members of their family. But I think one of the most difficult parts is, okay, if you do that, then you don't want to take away the resentment and the bitterness that you have to do that. Like, does that make sense? You know, that you want to do it out of a place of, you know what, I want to maintain some sort of connection with you that's healthy for me, and that's why I'm going to put these boundaries in. And it's going to take it's going to take some process to get that way. But I think if that's what you feel like you need to do. But Alice, you look like you're on the edge of your seat with some good news.
Philip, I hear that you are a thoughtful intelligent man, and you have worked very hard to overcome great obstacles. And I respect that you're so you're being cautious about this decision of how much to cut your mom out of your life. I have a challenge for you. Mm-hmm. My challenge is that you would describe the relationship with your mother in detail to get an objective perspective. I'm sure there are much stronger examples of how toxic your mom is. The example you gave surprises me. As much as I love organ music and respect talent, it'd be hard for me to listen to organ music for 6 to 8 hours a day if it were in my house. So that example, which is not the only one.
Home. It was at our church.
At your church. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. It would be good for you to have an outside opinion about your mother's toxicity and what you best need to do to protect yourself from her. I don't hear the toxicity yet. And our time may be too brief to be able to get to it. But I want you to check with a longer description of what you've gone through with your mom so that there can be brainstorming about how much you need to cut her off.
And how to go about it.
Yes, because the Bible gives real specific steps. In Matthew 18, it tells us to take that problem right to the person and to see if they'll repent and change when they hear from us the truth about how they affect us.
I know what you're talking about. That's in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 18, beginning with verse 15.
That's right. That's right. And go ahead, Becky.
Well, I was just going to say, if it's not one thing, it's your mother. And I know that's for all of us. We have to kind of get to that place. You mentioned, you mentioned, Philip, that, you wanted to be able to have a healthy distance so that you weren't affected by the toxicity, but also wanted to honor her. And the great Dr. Dave Stoop has said many, many times that you honoring your parents is part of how you live your life. You give them honor because you're honorable, as opposed to they may not be honorable. And I don't know all the details like what Alice was saying, but I think that there's...
not only that, Becky, but I don't want to dishonor God by dishonoring my mother.
Exactly, right. And that's the reason why, when I'm talking about those the boundaries that you're talking about, you don't want to put up a boundary and be mad about it, because then you don't, you just look like you haven't figured that out. So I would, if you're not already talking to somebody about how to do this, that's what I would do. And the other thing is, with so many people that we are related to, it may be parents, it may be siblings or whatever, they're not always going to get or understand our pain in relationship with them. And that, sometimes we really want them to understand what their effect is on us, but they may not be able to do that. And so that's where we have to forgive them for not knowing what they do, but then also put in those parameters, like you mentioned, Philip, that you talked about, so that you can be in a healthy relationship as much as it is possible.
So Alice, you're suggesting a counselor to be that objective person he goes to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And we can connect you with a counselor, Philip, who can walk you through this.
Thank you, Philip, for calling. Book for Philip.
He's not the only one that has a toxic parent, but
boundaries. Can we still get boundaries?
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, that is a good one.
Thank you. We'll send boundaries.
Good job,
Alice. We still have people online. Please hold on. We'll take you next hour. We're doing one more hour. You can call us at 800-229-3000 to join us with a question. Becky, close us off with the Word of God.
So, today we meet in the New Life world for devotions, and we're talking about how great is our God. And it reminded me of this passage in Micah 7:18-20. It says, "Where is another God like you, who pardons the guilt of the remnant, overlooking the sins of his special people? You will not stay angry with your people forever, because you delight in showing unfailing love. Once again, you will have compassion on us. You will trample our sins under your feet and throw them into the depths of the ocean. You will show us your faithfulness and unfailing love, as you promised to our ancestors Abraham and Jacob long ago." How
Love
about
it.
that?
That's a great one. And I wanted to say publicly here, thank you, Gary, for that devotion this morning. And listen to the words of the music, folks. We can get lost in everything else about the music, but the words can be very rich and true. So we'll see you again tomorrow. We're glad you're with us, and we look forward to another day of new life. See you then.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And I'll see you next time.